Okay, so good evening and welcome to our first panel discussion, sponsored by Carlin Made Local Funding and also from Semble. Tonight, obviously, it's our first panel discussion. We're talking with Patrick McGee and also Louise Fay from the relative sports that we're involved with. So obviously, I'm Andy Credit from Birmingham Wheelchair Basketball. Patrick, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Patrick McGee. I'm the Chief Exec of Paradance UK.
Okay. Louise, sorry.
Hi, yeah, Louise Fay, and I'm the founder of Chronic Warrior UK, which is an adaptive boxing and lifestyle service.
Thanks, Louise. Thanks, Patrick. So obviously, this is our first panel discussion, and it's a program that we've been sponsored by Carlin and Made Local Funding, and it's to continue what we've been doing over since the start of lockdown, which is to do with motivation, inspirational interviews, getting people reconnecting and being active, and also inspiring others. So, Patrick, tell me about your organisation, Paradance UK.
Paradance is a charity and governing body supporting paradance sport, which is competitive ballroom, Latin and freestyle dancing, right through to supporting inclusive dance, non-genre specific, inclusive dance. The whole concept is around showcasing and enabling the disabled community to get involved in dance, whether that's competitive, creative, or social opportunities.
And going on from that, Patrick, obviously, where did inclusion sport start for you, and why are you so motivated to continue this and inspire others?
I think the reason we go forward in this, or I go forward in this, is that there's a lot of stuff around sport and physical activity, and we always go back to specific sport or specific programs that are always there, always central. But we never look outside the box at things like wheelchair boxing. I'd never heard of that until we'd met as a partnership. So for me, there's always something new. There's always a new opportunity to be able to give our communities a chance to look at what we possibly do. And I think dance, alongside with wheelchair basketball and wheelchair boxing, can really start showcasing actually these sports and recreational activities can work alongside each other. It doesn't have to always be running or swimming, or there are a multitude of other things that come out in the community that you can have a go of.
Thanks, Patrick. So, Louise, going on to you, obviously wheelchair boxing, and we had an interview, some time ago as part of our Motivation Inspiration project. What inspired you to go into this sport and continue it, I suppose, and now obviously have a community of people that continue to get enthralled and engaged in adaptive wheelchair boxing?
So the long story short is that I was trying to find an adaptive sport to be a part of. My disability came later in life, so up until sort of the age of 30, I participated in mainstream sport, and primarily that would have been swimming. So post-surgery and post the injury and things, I was looking for a new sport to get involved in. And for me, it felt like a no-brainer to go back into swimming or into para-swimming. And I contacted the relative governing body and sort of said, I've had some timings done and they're quite similar to where your athletes are at the moment. Could I go and come over and could you have a look at me? And they basically sent me an application form, and I completed it, and I was told in as many words I wasn't disabled enough. And so that was my first experience of trying to access a disabled community. So it was really quite strange. So I managed to get myself a personal trainer, and I was just trying to get back into the gym and just get active again. And I saw a punch bag in the corner of the room, and I just said to the PT, oh, I would have loved to have given boxing a try as an able-bodied. Oh dear, that's never going to happen. And he just went, why don't you do it in your chair? as simple as that. And it was like, I can't think of a reason why not. And so that was the start of it. So naturally, you start to Google wheelchair boxing, adaptive boxing, para boxing, whatever you want to call it, and there was nothing. There was a few videos on YouTube which were actually everything that we don't promote now, looking at it, really quite violent, quite to us it wasn't a sport. And so that was my entry into disability sport, into the boxing world, and then that has become my life's work to try and make adaptive boxing a competitive sport within governing bodies.
It's quite an interesting one, isn't it? That with that whole concept of I had the same thing with dance. You go in to go say, well, I'll have a go. I'll try. It's well, no, you can't do that. That's not we're not able to offer that service in this community. And then all of a sudden, as you say, you get that right people. For me, it was the founders of the charity. Said, well, why can't you do this dance? And it's like, well, I'm in a power chair. Yeah, you can. Off you go. Just have a go. And I think I found that so many times. I don't know, Andy, if you found that in wheelchair basketball. So many people have turned around and gone, I was told no. And it's that one inspirational person that turns around and goes, yeah, go on then. Just have a go. See what the possibilities are.
It's interesting you say that, because obviously I was medically retired from my previous employment, and you know I started 20 years ago from where I left off, and I'd always played, as you say, Louise, been involved in general sport, you know, coaching for football for nearly 30 years, you know, and it was quite interesting to say that now I've got. I've been given this label of a condition, and where do I go from there? But I didn't have the support to say, well, what do I do now then? Because I came out of a job that I'd been in for 17 years, and there was nowhere to go. Unfortunately, I was went on to a government scheme called Join Up Actively, which retrained me to get my football qualifications, give me an opportunity to join Birmingham City Council for their football program, and became one of their strikes coaches for their football program. But that led me into education. But it still wasn't like I was the issues was nobody could give me a diagnosis of what was wrong with me. I had these issues of like having an operation on my knee to remove certain tissues and everything else, and they're saying that your organs might fail or they might not fail because of this condition, because we know very little about it, and now I'm in the position, obviously, because I've got stress fractures in my back and looking to possibly have a neurosurgeon put a rod in my back in the near future. So it's interesting, and as you say, for me, wheelchair basketball took over my life when I was in education. So I got my qualifications through the school because it was an inclusion school that I was working in. I was supporting students to play inclusion sport through the Penathlon Games and the school games, and the whole world seemed to open up for me when I did wheelchair basketball, because at the time, I suppose, wheelchair basketball being new to me, but also to the community itself as being not as open as it was before. So it started to build and build and build, and I think where we are now with British wheelchair basketball, we're in the idea of playing inclusion sport is probably what paramount to wheelchair basketball, because everybody knows the sport since the London 2012 and everywhere else, and I think that's a lot for the same sports as well, especially with inclusion sport and disability sport. Moving on. Go on, sorry, Patrick.
I can say it's got quite an interesting scenario, isn't it? Because a whole idea of being made disabled or become disabled, whichever way you look at it. You look at all three of us, we're all from three different walks of life. The vision is that our stories are similar in the respect of what this happened. You've gone to the relative people that you should have got support from.
Yeah. And
it's not been those that have given you the support, the outer fringe the organisations we work for now.
Well, that's the point, is it? I mean, I remember the first time we took wheelchair basketball, and I know sport was invited to the Mobility Roadshow, and that was back in, I think it was about 2017, around there, maybe earlier than that. But the point was, I spoke to a woman, 85 years old, bless her, electric wheelchair, and she said herself, I didn't know I could play sport even at my age in an electric wheelchair. And she was playing through, I think it was through the Dwarf Society, through April Barrett, and I can't remember Tom. I think it was Tom who was the coach that came on the day, and we did new age curling, and all it was a mop head and this like stone and a push it, and she was like, this is fantastic, I've never done something like this before. and that was like, and she said herself, in I think it was about 50 years since she played some sort of sport. And that to me is is quite scary, because there's so many opportunities that are out there, but people don't know about them. And I think I spoke to somebody else who was saying that it was nice to talk to people who understood about inclusion sport, because we don't get the chance to speak to people, and that was back in 20 whatever. I mean, that's moved forward now, we're in a better position, but I still think in that scenario there's still people out there who, especially with the pandemic now, is that are isolated, or because of inclusion sport hasn't been promoted as much as it could, and there's no legacy, and hopefully that's going to change again with the Commonwealth Games and moving on, is that there's people out there who are still not reaching.
I do think that, Andy, that actually the last 12 months has kind of given us a unique opportunity with that. Whereas before it was, you had to leave your front door, you had to go out and in search of these places. And say, for example, if it would be adaptive boxing, you might have to travel hundreds of miles to your nearest adaptive centre that can provide that service, that sport, whatever it is. But actually now we've created accessibility and with all of our sports, and we've all found ways of not only delivering the sports to a good level and throughout the lockdown, but we've brought it to so many more people who we would never have reached prior to COVID, because they weren't in our geographic area. It wasn't in the Thompson local. It wasn't up on the poster wall at the university. And that's been the blessing that's come from the challenging year that we've had, I think.
Absolutely, Louise. And I think, that brings us nicely onto, obviously, talking about these initiatives and thinking about, obviously, where we are. And, before we move on to that question, what benefits, or what do you think the benefits are for your participants in taking part in your sport? I'll give that to Patrick. You tell me.
I think there's always the common ones. I think all three of us will agree that there is always a physical benefit, there's a mental health benefit, there's a social benefit. I think all three of us can agree that's principally the three main things that happen within any sport or physical activity. I think the difference, I would say, between dance sport or dance and, say, boxing and basketball, the only probably difference is probably the creativity side of it, in the respect of the person still gets their heart rate up, the person still, pressure still gets pumping, the blood gets pumping around the body. The only difference is we do it to music and we do it creativity. Whereas you guys may possibly do it more on a fitness and a specific technical ability. We may do it on a more musicality and performance-based bit.
I've got a shot for you there, Patrick, to be honest. Since I've started my sessions back, we do it to music all the time now.
Oh, hey, yes! Yes!
I've actually got a PA system that I take every week now, and we put the music on, and it's actually gone bonkers, to be fair.
Oh, I definitely now want to see video footage of both of these musical fitters now. That's brilliant.
I've just finished one tonight, two. So I've done a live TikTok seniors box fit session, and then I did a Facebook live under 16s box fit session, both with dance music. And what I've noticed as well within the Zoom classes, aside from the ones that I've just done tonight, is that everybody's boxing to the beat of the music now. So where people were finding that their head and body movement, they were feeling they didn't really know where to put themselves, they felt a bit anxious about doing it, Now they're going to the beat, they're moving around, they're waiting for the beat to drop before they go back into the combination. And so actually the work rate has increased massively just by putting music on. And who knew?
Yeah. I think this is the whole thing, isn't it? You argue the case, and I think I've been in so many meetings with people where they look at me as the dance person, and it's, oh, he's got to be a lovey, or he's got to just be into one style of dance, and he's going to be fine. And I walk in, I wheel in, sorry, and go, no, you, no. There's no way you're getting me on the dance floor and do the. As you said with your 55-year-old lady doing curling, we recently had a lady who had been isolated pre-COVID and was trying to find online activities. And go back to Louise's point regarding that whole engagement and bringing the community together. That for me was amazing, because she turned around to the feedback she gave was, don't stop, please don't stop. I have felt more committed to my community by being able to listen to pre-recorded dance classes or join a Facebook Live, or as Louise has done with the TikTok, and just have a bit of fun in that sort of stuff. Technology has come on leaps and bounds. Everyone's so wanting to get normal. We're forgetting how much, as Louise said, that time we've built a great community up. We've got that engagement. Not being funny, 3 of us. I don't think if in real life 3 of us would have actually engaged if it had not been for COVID, because where we're all based physically, we'd have probably been ships passing in the night. In all honesty. So I think there's that whole concept of we need to carry on to some of the positivity of the fact that online COVID impact, yes, there's been a hell of a lot of negativity behind it. There is so much positivity that we can take on and continue, and we don't always have to do face to face. And it's brilliant to be able to carry that on and share changes that people have done.
Mm. Absolutely. I mean, thinking about the initiatives that we've all done. I mean, I started off with just the interviews and doing things online, and now it's a case of the opportunity to go outside. And the thing was, when the restrictions in regards to you couldn't play indoor sport, and then we had the opportunity to go outside, and yes, the weather sometimes wasn't brilliant, but just to go out and actually be with people that I haven't seen such a long time. And yes, we had to social distance and, think about how we're going to do this, but it works. And, and then thinking about how we can incorporate that with our online sessions. And we were getting people from Surrey and from up north. And it was like, hang on, I'm outside at Queen Elizabeth Hospital on a Muga with 3 other people that were social distancing, and I'm actually doing something online at the same time. This is ridiculous. And and from that we did some editing and put it all together, and the amount of views that we've had since that on our Facebook page has gone ridiculous. And every week we do this now on with our sessions with Facebook Live. And last week I think we hit in one evening nearly 1,000 views, I think, on one of our Facebook pages. And that was hilarious. It's like, what's going on? But all the time now, people know from the likes of Africa, Asia, America. We're getting people making comments, asking like, can I come over and join you? And it just built a whole new world, isn't it, of reconnecting with things that possibly would never had the opportunity to do. And as you say, it's opening a lot more things to where we go in the future. Do you agree with that, Louise?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just sort of thinking to myself then, Chronic Warrior Adaptive Boxing actually only started in the February. So I started in February doing a little bit of private boxing. We went into lockdown in March. I took the classes literally online, and I had 3 people who I'd been teaching boxing with. And now we've got 65 members, 35 which are constantly active in the classes. And actually in So every month I do a boxing workshop, adaptive boxing workshop in Derby. But in June, we're doing a big weekend. And we've got 12 of the boxers coming from Scotland, Wales, as far as Hayling Island, Devon. And we're having adaptive boxing on the Saturday. Everybody's staying over in hotels on the Sunday, overnight, sorry. And then the next day, we've got aromatherapy, massage, and Tai Chi. We've got catering. And so these people who didn't even know each other existed or the sport at the beginning of lockdown are now meeting in the middle of the country. It's crazy. So yeah, that's what a year can do when you've got good minds and creative minds. And we sort of touched earlier about the lady who's doing the curling. I didn't know that we could do this. But what I found within a disability community is actually a lot of people are incredibly creative. Aside from our sports and crafts, just because you have to be creative in learning how to do things in a different way to the mainstream way. So whether it's cooking, cleaning, hoovering, whatever it is, we create ways to do it. And so if anybody was going to bring these kind of projects together, if anybody was going to create these sports and do the projects that we like to say, it's going to be superhuman disabled people. And I think it's something to be celebrated.
Thanks, Louise. That's lovely.
100% agree. 100% agree. I think there are. What makes me laugh is that when you talk about disability and a disabled person doing something, it's isn't that nice? And I think it's quite nice. It's quite nice. I'm coming on words. It's quite interesting to see the concept now that you look a Paralympian and everybody is pushed into that. Behave, Louise. To everyone to be into the position of being a Paralympian because of the Paralympics. 2012 momentum and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But there are, as you say, there are superhuman, there are inspirational disabled. We've got one lady who she just turns up at the class and pre-COVID, and she turned up to the class and she was there as a talking bit to have social and engaging. And she carried it on after COVID because she knew her class couldn't come together. She just carried on doing phone calls and messages and that sort of stuff. And she started up a social club group thing. And it's now started that the club now comes together socially and they engage. And it's that idea, it's that concept of, you can't say, if you read all these interviews that Andy's done over the COVID period, and I've seen quite a few of them, and the interesting thing behind everyone, it all started with someone saying no. And that person then saying, well, hang on, you said no to me, but I'm still going to do it. And the person's going, well, no, you can't do it. And it's amazing. You say no to somebody, and it's like your children. You say, you're not doing that. Yes, I am. Okay.
It is literally red rag to a bull. And I laughed at the beginning of when you said that, because when we was doing the boxing workshop last month, an able-bodied person came into the gym and walked up to two of the wheelchair boxers and went, oh, isn't it nice you can get out? Oh my gosh. Honestly, literally.
Be able to walk out afterwards.
Let's just say this person was educated in the abilities of our community. Yes.
Have you ever had that, Andy? From either side?
I have. I mean, it's, obviously I've when I've done some sessions and I can't. It's difficult because I have to be really careful about what I say. But yeah, I have instances where we were gearing up to join the National League, and the players were already they wanted to join the National League, and we were told that, well, can they drive? They're in a wheelchair, and it was like, well, they're only in a wheelchair. They can still drive a car. You know, it's any other person, same as you, same as me. Everybody can drive a car. Yeah, but they're in a wheelchair. How can they drive? And so that just say we terminated that partnership. But yeah, I've had it all the time. I mean, it amazes me, you know, when I've done my half marathons in my chair that I use from RGK, and you know, an RGK sponsored me to with the chair, and we carry on for motivation. But the amount of times I finished a half marathon, and you know, with my son who's running by the side of me, and you know, I get these people walking past and say, "Oh, did he do the half marathon as well?" This is well, you can talk to me too. and but you're right. It's down to education, isn't it? And I think that's the important. It's the awareness, and I think over these last probably 12 months, you know, people have learned to understand inclusion, disability, diversity a lot more. You know, and it still needs a push. You know, in the direction of, you know, getting people to understand in the community more. But I think where we're going with regards to reconnecting our sports and, you know, and inclusion sport as a whole and disability sport as a whole, we're on the right track, aren't we? It's you know, I think we've turned the corner in some respects, and I think Baroness Tanny Gray Thompson said it best. It's like, you know, we're, you know, because of COVID and the pandemic, you know, we've gone back into, yes, we have gone back into those dark times where disability is classed as a second-class citizen. But I think people are starting to realise that, you know, that's changing, and inclusion and diversity now, and people are more aware of that in the world. And so, especially young people now. I mean, you know, I speak to a lot of young people during the day, working in the college that I do, and also that out and about, is that they have a better understanding of, you know, disability and a better understanding of society in itself, and they're more accommodating to that. So times are changing, hopefully.
No, I actually I teach an 8-year-old able-bodied boy boxing, and I obviously sit in my chair, and he is an able-bodied boxer, and I've done 4 or 5 sessions with him now, and not once has he asked me why I'm in the chair, why I'm not doing what he's doing. And that all came from, you know, I had to be able to prove myself when I did my qualification that I could explain and demonstrate in a different way. But it just shows that innocence of young people, that prejudice is learned behaviour. You know, criticism, negativity, it's learned behaviour. And like I say, he's never once even questioned it. And I think that speaks a lot of, you know, probably his surroundings, actually, because there's many other people that in a different surrounding would have many more.
I think schools are embracing that as well now, because obviously before, where, you know, inclusion sport would possibly, you know, you couldn't get into schools or colleges, that's embraced now. And, you know, and because, you know, yes, there's still issues regards to buildings and accessibility, and obviously maybe down to training as well, because obviously logistics. But I think, you know, it's changing because people see the potential now of, you know, society itself and the community of where we're going. So I mean, that lines up nicely to our last question, actually, before we end this first panel discussion. So obviously we talk about inclusion and diversity. So why do you think inclusion and diversity is so important now?
Well, I'm going to ask that question to you, Andy. Me and Louise have got a lot of talking. Why do you think it's important?
You can tell. Okay, fine. All right. Okay. So, you know, I'm a true believer that, you know, it's you know, we as a community, it's like in wheelchair basketball, we're a family, and, you know, and everybody that comes to our club, you know, finds that belonging, because it's a sense of belonging that everybody needs. And then, you know, that supports your mindset, your mental health, you know, your well-being, and, you know, that relationship building in everyday society of working together. And it's really important now moving forward. And as I've always said, that my disability doesn't define who I am. And I can be anybody I want to be and do whatever I want to with regards to the rules of the land and the rules of the law. I support what I'm doing to support the generations for the future, and and being part of something that builds that positivity can only change the world in stages. And I think we're changing. As I say, inclusion and diversity to me is welcoming everybody to change their future and change society that better for everybody. So that's my inclusion and diversity message.
You said then that you can be anybody that you want to be, and we know you love to be Spider-Man. So
Okay.
There will be photos.
Oh, there are lots of photos. Where posted, guys? Scroll back a bit and look at the amazing work that Andy did for the superhero series with time.
I got too many bloopers and outtakes, so I don't even go there.
I think the thing is, at the end of the day, you summed it up brilliantly, Andy. At the end of the day, equality, diversity, inclusion, segregation, inspiration, motivation. There are so many different words for this thing, and it is, at the end of the day, it's about treating people with respect, whether they do boxing, whether they do basketball, or whether they do dance. And crossover between the three or the communities, as we just said here, you do dance, we do physical activity and some of the fitness programs and that sort of stuff. So I think for me, yeah, you summed it up brilliantly. That is why the whole idea of this partnership works, because it's not looked at as Louise the boxer, Andy the basketball player, pretending to be dancer. The concept is that it is three disabled individuals or three communities coming together and wanting to change an open heart and mind around disability, and then saying, here's a choice, have a go. You can be a professional dancer, you can be a professional boxer, you can be a professional basketball player. You've got a chance to go from grassroots up international level in all three areas if you want. And I think giving people that opportunity and that chance to look at possibilities, as well as dressing up Spider-Man on a weekend, does give people that opportunity to see the possibilities. And I think that's where this project, and I think that's why I supported this project and why producing these videos and having these panel discussions. I don't know about Louise or Andy, but for me, it was about giving that platform to be able to show different side. And I don't mean different disabilities, I mean different as to there are other things you can do that you don't necessarily think you can do. And I think for me that's the opportunity.
Absolutely. I mean, what do you think, Louise? I mean, from your point of view, what would you say inclusion and diversity is?
It's a family. Inclusion is family. You treat everybody as you would expect to be treated, regardless of age, sex, ability, ethnicity. I'm not saying don't acknowledge it, because that's a completely different thing, but it's respect for each other. And I think that's what inclusivity is for me.
Fantastic. I mean, yeah, I do find it interesting. I mean, I was in college this afternoon, and talking to a colleague, and I think they made a clear point about, obviously the people that work in inclusion and diversity and run their clubs, and that she turned around to me and said, you wouldn't be the same person if you didn't do what you do, because obviously everything that you do in college and everything you do outside the college, that's that's who you are, and that's who you support, and that just shows the passion and the positivity of changing perceptions of today's society, and it is respecting and showing that positivity to others, that it does work, inclusion works, diversity works, and it will change society as a whole in the future, because everybody's more aware, which hopefully the community will understand, and especially with obviously the superhero series, because I've got 14 boxes. It's just filled up this room completely. But yeah, I think the idea that everybody can be involved in something that includes that inclusion kind of aspect, because it makes people more aware, shows that times are changing, and it promotes the community as a whole as building and breaking down those barriers. So yeah.
Absolutely. For me, as a mixed race female with a disability, I have found, experienced only too well different areas of diversity not being accepted, and certainly within a sporting arena. And I think I feel more included now as a disabled athlete than I ever did as an AB in all the years that I competed in mainstream sport. So that, again, testament to the community.
Absolutely.
And I think it's quite interesting, isn't it? When you look at, as you say, when you're in the community, you do have that family, that respect, that engagement. But I found is getting into that community. If you look now at all the research, I think the Activity Alliance has just launched out some new research of the impact on COVID for the disabled community. And it's devastating news that it just completely wiped out years of support and engagement has happened within that mainstream disability block. But it's quite interesting, and you look in that disability block and nothing's changed. The communities are still trying to work together, they're still building the capacity, they're still the issue is then that connection between the mainstream and the disability block. And I think if anything of showing us three talking and just rabbiting for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour about disability, and showing all the videos that we're producing and the dance days and the physicality days and that sort of stuff, the opportunities is there for people to have a go in the mainstream as well as the disability market. And I think sometimes we have to just forget about that. Yes, in certain instances there are positions where you have to design something around abilities and engagement, but then there are a number of individuals. I've worked with a number of amputees who wanted to do dance, and they've said, look, it's my leg or my arm missing, not my brain. So I can still go in and do a mainstream class, but because they can't put their leg in a particular position because they have no leg, or they can't put their arm into a particular position, again, it's not there to do. Oh, you can't do that, not allowed to do it. And the community then feels, oh, or should I? Can I say it? Because he's got no arm, I'm not allowed to say you can have it. I think the key thing now is from COVID is that we take experiences and learning from that community within the disability community. And I don't know how, but we need to be able to take that out and bring it to the mainstream community and start, without it being seen as a battle cry, and you must engage disabled people. It's got to be, yeah, because it is. As soon as you start walking up, wheeling up, or going up to someone and saying, right, I'm here to talk about disability. Oh, no. Is the lawyer around? I got So I think the principle behind it is to turn around and say, it's not difficult, it's not hard. Yes, there are going to be difficult questions to be asked. 90% of the disability community have already figured out their own way of doing it. We just need to get those dots connected.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I think, looking at obviously employers and moving forward, there's still a lot of work to do, and believe me, it's every day is a hard day to move things forward. But the three of us and other communities out there and people out there who go out there and consistently do this all the time, and look at the initiatives that we can put in place. As I said, yes, it is hard, but we are being positive and changing it. And you just, you know, knocking on that door, aren't we, saying, look, things are changing. There we go. Guys, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I think we're going to leave it there. Hopefully we'll be on again on another panel discussion, and we'll get some guests, hopefully. So obviously we'll chat about that in the future, but for now, Patrick, pleasure to see you again as always. Louise, see you soon. I know you're very, very busy, so and don't forget your dinner's in the microwave still. Before you forget that one. All right, and see you soon, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.